In the 1930s and early 40s, hundreds of thousands of Jews fled Germany and Austria and emigrated to the United States and Great Britain to escape torture and certain death at the hands of the Nazis.
They kicked the shit out of me so much, you just can't imagine.
They found safety far from the only homes they ever knew.
When I came to America, I didn't have to look around the corner anymore to see if somebody was coming to kick the daylights out of me.
I didn't realize how discriminated against we had been until I got here.
They stood looking out into an uncertain future.
My aunt not only got me out, she got me a job as a farmhand. So I would go across the fields at night to shut up the chickens in their houses, and I would pretend that I was stalking Nazis.
Can I say it's like a dream? I mean, all of a sudden, all this crap fell off me. Maybe I was made for this country, or this country was made for me.
But safety in America and Great Britain was short-lived. As the world prepared for war, these brave young refugees, overcome by a sense of duty to the nations that had taken them in, and driven by a desire to take back what was taken from them, boldly placed themselves once again in peril's way.
Well, I felt that there is a sense of justice, as written in the book of Deuteronomy, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life.
I've always made the point that if I had lived under them for 6 hours or 6 days, it would have been sufficient to motivate one to volunteer to fight them.
I knew I had a job to do. The job to do was to help this country win the war.
With brazen courage, these refugees performed an about-face, joining the Allied armed forces, and returned to confront their former oppressors on the fields of battle.
And among the questions we were asked was whether we were willing to undertake dangerous missions, and that we fully understand, and we had to sign that statement, fully understand that the British government will not take any responsibility for us because we are not British citizens, and that under the Geneva Convention, the Germans have the right to execute us as former German nationals.
Do you want to be an ambulance driver? And I thought, ambulance driver, drive from one hospital to another. I don't know. They do frontline duty. Yes, yes, that's what I want. Oh, yes, I speak English fluently. Yes, yes, send me.
Pointed my rifle at the son of a bitch, and he turned white. Then I told him, Deutsche Jude. And this man was in an absolute state of terror. He couldn't believe that one little Yid should get him out of 5 million American G.I.s.
Now, for the first time on film, a moving documentary that will tell the controversial and little-known story of these Jewish refugees turned soldiers and their uniquely powerful and unexpected experiences.
You want to become a citizen? Yes, sir. You can change your name if you want to, which I did at that point. And finally, he says, you know, we have to ask you one very important question before we can make you a citizen. Are you willing to fight against the country of your birth? When I heard that, I laughed too.
We had one man attached to our headquarters called Ted Bockenheimer that was chased out of Germany because he was Jewish. In my eyes, he was one of the biggest heroes that I knew in my outfit, that he had the bravery to go out. Just like as he was going into town someplace, he was that casual about it, where most of us were just scared to death if we would go out behind enemy lines.
As they headed into battle, thoughts of loved ones they had left behind weighed heavily in their minds, and in their hearts was the knowledge that they'd be fighting against the countries they had once called home, the countries for which their own fathers had fought in World War I, and now the countries that had turned against them.
It's a burden to carry. The idea that you're going back to fight the people in the country of your birth. But they had an awful regime, and they were killing people, including my family, and I never saw it as a choice.
It was something we felt that needed to be done, that we might not particularly enjoy once it happened. Although I now think it was one of the most important experiences of my life.
See, at that time, I couldn't write to my parents anymore. And so I bought my first diary so that when I see them, they can read everything that happened to me. And of course, I never did see them again.
As they marched into the heart of war, they were overwhelmed by the sense of kinship they felt with their new American and British comrades, who stood side by side with them on the front lines, ready to die for their cause.
I was, at that point in time, a very proud American. And I was doing something that it was high time that we were all doing together.
I just felt the world opened up to me. The Army and I have always been pals. It was like a second family to me.
What they encountered would forever change them in ways they could have never imagined.
Yeah, I also feel sorry about that all this had to happen. Like all wars. It's crazy.
I crawled up the beach and I looked around and there was nobody alive. Just dead people.
When the war was pretty much coming to an end, on May 7th, I thought it was time to go and to find my parents.
What began as a quest for revenge became a voyage of discovery of one's self-identity, the futility of war, and the power of humanity.
And it was a German. His face was stark white because he had lost so much blood. I felt very, very sad. And I felt very sorry for him, even though he was the enemy.
Revenge is something that doesn't send me very far.
I had gone to Europe fighting the Nazis with hatred in my heart for all they had inflicted so gratuitously on Jews and on the world, and had expected to find nothing but that devastation. All that was true, of course, but for me personally, it was the key to my own future.
About Face is told through the words of veterans, historians, and politicos, reflecting on this untold chapter in history and its relevance to the world today.
I want to give you a different side to the Holocaust experience. This is very different to the type of experience which you associate with the Holocaust, because we had a chance to strike back.
I remember one incident in the afternoon when I was sitting in my foxhole and I was looking out toward Le Havre, toward the ocean, and I said, my God, if I survive this, won't I have some tale to tell?